the last time that we talked about a new large influx of weapons, invention, and technology really was the Civil War, and we haven't seen a huge amount of new weapons in a war since then. But we're finally going to see a brand new, pretty big influx of some pretty awesome and impressive stuff here in World War I. Now, I told you back when we learned the Civil War last semester that that the Civil War had the largest number of American casualties out of any other war put together, and that is true. We do lose way more men in the Civil War, and that was for a couple of reasons, but one of which being that we were fighting both sides, so you're automatically going to lose more when you're on both sides. But as grand casualty rates go in terms of like total numbers of people lost, not only Americans but everyone fighting from every side, World War I is going to see some incredibly high casualty numbers. Really, in just a few months, we're going to see millions of people have already died just a few months into the war. And a lot of that is because of all of these crazy new weapons that we've got produced. So the first new strategy that we have is going to be trench warfare. So we've already talked about trench warfare when we were talking about the Western Front. And trenches make it nearly impossible to cross defended land because 100% when you get anywhere close to it, you're going to get shot. So crossing land controlled by your enemy, it's virtually impossible when they're using trench warfare. Hand grenades, though, because of this, are going to become more popular because they can be used to attack trenches. But a common tactic is also to tunnel under the enemy's trenches. Then you can blow them up from underneath. You can, get to the other side and then come at them from behind where they wouldn't expect. So that's a really common strategy also. The biggest mass casualty causer is going to be new artillery. So remember I told you before, artillery is basically big guns. So long-range cannons especially are going to cause more casualties than any other weapons. That's what the picture here in the middle is of some really big long-range cannons. So long-range cannons we would pretty much position at our front lines. So right in front of some trenches, we might have some long-range cannons as sort of a first wave of defense. We're also going to be using chemical warfare for the first time in World War I. Now, we've used stink bombs and smoke bombs and stuff before, but those are largely for distractions, like decoy stuff. We're really going to be toying with what you can do with gas and chemicals in terms of weapons in World War I. We're going to be using things like chlorine gas, phosgene gas, mustard gas. Weapons like these can kill, blind, maim, burn people. They can do all sorts of stuff. Germany is going to have the most advanced chemical weapons first. Eventually, we will catch up with them, but in the beginning, they definitely had the advantage in terms of chemical weapons. Finally, though, we will start using gas masks, and that can't really help you if they're using a type of gas that would burn you. Obviously, any skin exposed to the gas would really hurt, but it would protect your lungs and your face, which could be obviously very important as well. So, but there's no foolproof way, really, to escape gas. Another reason why gas weapons is so crazy poison gas is because if you throw it in a trench, the gas just follows along the trench. If it was on the ground, if it was on the surface, then the wind could pick it up and it could blow anyway. It can spread out really quickly, but when you put it in a trench, it remains dense and it travels along the length of the trench. And even if you've got people further down the trench and they, aren't where you initially throw the gas bomb, then this will sort of sneak up on them so silently and it can cause, instant death. So poison gas is going to be a big one. We're also going to see submarines. Now, we've seen submarines back in Civil War, right? But we didn't really use them in battles. They were mostly used for like recon mission work. But now we've actually got torpedoes and on-deck weaponry that we can use. And the Germans, once again, are going to have the best, right? If you've learned anything about German submarines, like back from world history, you should have learned about the German U-boat. So that was the original German submarine, and those are going to do a lot of damage to us. Or we are going to see some tanks and armored cars in World War I. They're not the types of tanks that you're imagining when you see a tank today, and even in World War II, they had that long belt, like a caterpillar or a bulldozer or something, that served as the wheel. But originally, we didn't have that long belt wheel. We just had regular wheels like you'd see on a tractor or something. And they weren't very, they were pretty top heavy. They could flip over pretty easily. They weren't very successful. They were important to push through like barbed wire and get over some rough terrain. But we're not really going to be able to use tanks like we will in World War II at this point quite yet. But definitely the most impressive new thing we have is going to be airplanes. So obviously we can thank the Wright brothers for that. The airplanes can be great for multiple things in war. Obviously, they can be used for reconnaissance, gathering intel on your enemy, which is great. But they can also be used to drop bombs. They can be used to drop supplies. They can be used to drop troops. So they're definitely going to be a big advantage when a stalemate is happening on the ground. If neither side can make headway on the ground, you could fly an airplane overhead and drop bombs, or bring in more supplies to back up your troops who are sort of stuck in a position where they can't gain any ground. So all of these weapons are going to be very, very important as the war continues. Here is an example of what trench foot is. So I've said, that the trenches are just a really horrible situation. Pretty early we get to one of those stalemates, and as said, after only a few months already, millions of people have been killed in combat. And from disease, and conditions in the trenches are really rough. People are living in constant fear. If your head goes above, the trench, you're at risk of getting shot. I told you about the poison gas and the grenades. You can be blown up from underneath. There are rats all over the place, infesting trenches. They carry disease and they carry lice. But definitely one of the most dangerous things is trench foot. When you're standing in water for a long period of time, then your feet will basically start to decompose, but you won't feel it because they will have gone numb because the water is cold. And that's essentially what happens to people. And like you see, this was very, very common. Even for it to be this bad, that wasn't unusual. And really, when you see something that bad, the only option is to amputate, because the feet are so ruined that they're open to infection, and if it gets infected, the infection can spread to your bloodstream, and that can attack your heart. So it just makes sense to amputate. So overall, trenches, not a place you want to be. While all of this is going on, this is the war in Europe to us, right? We are trying to remain as neutral as possible. President Wilson is encouraging people to be impartial in thought as well as in action. And that's so true. We really want to be as impartial as possible, and that's for a lot of reasons. Really, the main reason is the large number of immigrants we have in the United States. In 1914, a third of U.S. residents are foreign born. We have a country full of immigrants, and we don't want to set people against each other. We have Russian immigrants and Italians and Irish and British and French and, German. We have people from all over the world and all over Europe. So we don't want to put ourselves and these people in a situation where they might have to take a position against their homeland, against family that they might have still in that country, against other people in this country. It's a very difficult situation. So Wilson basically makes an announcement saying that unless the United States was directly threatened, then Americans want no part in this war, and we won't take a part in this war. Now, that being said, obviously, we're going to side, in people's minds. Most Americans are still siding with one group or the other for various reasons. But overall, our businesses are definitely benefiting from our neutrality. A lot of the products in Europe couldn't be produced anymore because of the war that was going on. So obviously, we over here in the United States, not fighting a war, are more than willing to produce whatever these people need. So we are making a lot of money off of these countries overseas that might normally go to other places for their business. Those places can't produce that good now, so we're stepping up to do that. So demand is really high among American businesses at this point, which is great. Now, things change though when Germany invades Belgium, and that changes things for multiple reasons. It stops being about what caused the war. Like we can look at the cause of the war, the initial cause, which is the conflict between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. That doesn't affect us at all. The situation going on with, Austria-Hungary and Serbia, whatever. That has nothing to do with America. So that means we shouldn't be involved in this war at all. But when Germany invades Belgium, they change that. The war is no longer can we use the excuse, like we don't need to be involved because of the cause. The focus starts being a lot more about the atrocities being committed during the war, and a lot of that is happening by the Germans. The Germans are really running the show for the Central Powers, for that Triple Alliance at this point. Even if all of this started because of Austria-Hungary, Germany's really the one calling the shots by this time. And violating Belgium's neutrality was a very big deal. It's important that in war, countries who are neutral have that neutrality respected, and we all just as a world, we expect that from our neighboring countries, and we expect Germany to respect our neutrality just like we expected them to respect Belgium's neutrality, but they didn't at all. They not only declared war on Belgium, but tore through it in like a month. Very big deal, very bad. So a lot of Americans feel like we have pretty much been forced to side with Great Britain and France. So there are three possible mindsets that everyone's feeling at this point. The first is being an isolationist. Being an isolationist is when you feel like the war in Europe is none of our business. We should isolate ourselves. Mindset number two is being an interventionist. You think that we should intervene, we should get involved, and we should get involved with the allies. The allied powers, the triple entente, that's who we should be lined up with. And then the third sort of possible mindset is the internationalist. Internationalists are sort of the middle ground people. Woodrow Wilson was an internationalist. These people want to achieve peace, but doing it without putting boots in the ground. We don't want to send soldiers or weapons and money into this war. We would just like to end it as a mediator or something. We don't necessarily want to have to declare war and get involved in that capacity, but that is going to change, and it is going to change because of some actions that Germany takes.